questions.
We have a question from Sean. What is the weirdest thing you have encountered during a chess tournament?
Oh, do I have stories? How long you got?
You got all day, yes, sir.
You got all day. Okay, the weirdest thing I've encountered.
Okay,
I laugh about it all the time. It was my first U.S. Open, so I'm in this young kid, and I'm really, really excited. I'm a B class player, and there's like 720 people at the Chicago U.S. Open. And, you know, I'm trying to find my name on on board 300, you know, like, and then going into the playing hall. I'm super, super excited because I've never played in a national open championship before. And I come to the board and there's this wonderful elderly gentleman with great white hair, brilliant smile. Everything's really, really nice. And we shake hands and he helps me fill out the score sheet. They had a strange time control. It was like 50 moves in 2.5 hours, and he wanted to make sure I understood. So it was all beautiful, friendly game, and he's smiling throughout the whole game. Just smiling. And the smile turns into a grimace. The grimace turns into a frown, and finally we reach this crescendo where we both have like 5 minutes for 20 moves, and he takes his teeth out and he puts it in a glass of water next to the board. And I'm sitting there trying to avoid looking at these teeth that have been smiling at me for 4 hours that are now in a glass of water next to the board. I'd never seen dentures before in my life, and there they were.
Yeah, I'm not beating that. And honestly, you know,
no one can.
This is a kind of a prompt which always stumps me. Like, say something funny or describe a weird thing. Like,
what?
Your brain just goes completely blank. Yours doesn't, which is why you're a smart person here, and we are.
You were around maybe during the smoking.
Yeah, but that is not really that weird. Yeah, my first ever tournament I played outside the borders of my home country. I played in Groningen Open 1990. Oh. And there were definitely people smoking in my face. And also there was a person there, I remember this very distinctly, which it's not really a weird memory, but it's weird what sticks with you for all these years. Mm-hmm. The Groningen Open was played alongside a round robin. So there was like a cordoned off area where very, very strong players, I think Anatoly Karpov played there, and Boris Gulko and some other people. And every day there was a spectator there who was sitting there, and he brought this very little, like very tidy little knife, which he would use to clean oranges with. And he would not stop until every little bit of white was removed from an orange. And then he would very carefully peel it into very precise segments and eat them one by one. And somehow 34 years on,
right?
This is still, I remember the chair he was sitting in and everything. Yeah. But this is not very weird. It's just like, this is how your mind works. This was my first ever tournament, and it absolutely stuck with me.
Right. And I remember for me also, there was the smoking in the playing hall, and the people who brought pipes, more or less kind of what you were saying. People who smoke cigarettes, they're just bumming matches. But the people who brought their pipes often brought their tool kit with them. And there was a particular way you could clean the pipe, and you know, you would have this bowl and you would take all of the tobacco out and they would and I mean, it was a real
I want
production.
to interrupt this story because I think we should have done this earlier. Smoking is bad, okay?
Yes, do not smoke in the tournament. Yeah, but there was a whole production that went with the pipe smokers.
Yeah. I'm very happy this no longer happens.
I think I missed out on all the fun.
Oh, no?
Once I started to play, we had so many rules and regulations. You can't do anything weird anymore.
Exactly. None of this stuff is allowed anymore in the tournament hall. And there was a lot of cases. There was a lot of cases in my time where the last rounds would start early. Mm-hmm. And it was inevitable. Whenever there was a last round early start, somebody overslept.
Chess players.
So like you'd see these chess players groveling and shuffling their way to the board, and you know, halfway into the game, most of the people were there. But today, if you're 5 minutes late, boom, you're done. In those days, it was 1 hour. And it was oftentimes, like 50 minutes. And people running into the play hall.
There's an absolutely legendary story that gets passed along the generations of Soviet chess players about a person you know much better than I do, even though I played a couple of games against him, Rafael Vaganin.
Oh, definitely.
Who is an absolute giant of Soviet chess. And he was playing some tournament in, I think it was South America. So it's pretty hot outside. And they messed up the time, the starting round time. And they figured out that they were very late, maybe like 40 minutes into the round already. And it's like a brisk, maybe 10, 15 minute walk.
Right.
And they haven't left the hotel yet, he and a friend. And they leave the hotel and the friend turns to Rafael and says, "We gotta run." And Rafael says, "If we run, we will sweat. If we will sweat, we will not be able to play." And this quote somehow gets, and this idea that it's better to lose by forfeit than to arrive at the board slightly perspiring.
Right.
Somehow, I understand I'm not doing it justice and nobody's laughing,
Right.
but in my mind, this
was hilarious.
This is, which just tells you what kind of a person I am, I guess. What
Right.
to do.
So I'm guessing they didn't even try to run.
No, they got there, I think, with 1 minute to spare without running. It was very important not to run because you do not want
1 minute.
something like very important not to
my
perspire,
goodness.
apparently.
One last very, very weird story because it is very funny. It was Victor Korchnoi. He was playing a candidates match. It's an elimination match, and it was the way they would determine the challengers of the world champion. And he was playing against Lev Polygaevsky in Buenos Aires. I was his second with 2 rounds to spare. Victor led by a point. So if he draws both games, he wins the match. But if he wins the penultimate game, the match is over. Victor has a great advantage out of the opening. He's white. And for some unbelievable reason, he can't explain, he offers a draw. Like what? Polygaevsky accepts the draw, comes back the next day, Polygaevsky ties up the match, boom, they're in overtime. Yeesh. So there's the press conference after the game, and they said to the Argentine journalists were asking Victor, was he upset about now the match is tied? He said, no, not at all. I committed a crime. I committed a crime by offering a draw in a much better position, and I was punished, and the match is tied, just like Dostoevsky wrote in Crime and Punishment. I'm okay with that. And the journalist asks Victor, he says, well, what is the ELO of Mr. Dostoevsky? Victor lost it at that point. The press conference was over. Victor could not. What is the ELO of Mr. Dostoevsky?
It's a valid question.
It's a very valid question.
You want to know.
That was too funny. Let's get back into the chess. Thank you for the question.